But they also do say, I mean, they do express this frustration that the world is run, as they understand it, by a unipower, a unipolar regime, hegemon, the United States, and that they've managed to describe the post-Cold War settlement, or indeed the post-1945 settlement, as a kind of conspiracy of America to control the entire world. I mean, that's how they're spinning this, right?
Yeah,
But
except
they're not.
who empowered them and how did they get rich? I mean, they got rich because of trade with America. I mean,
The arguments that they're making, the rationalizations they make for the way they behave. One of the things they will say is this, and is, look, the West has a bunch of billionaires too, corrupt billionaires that control lots of things. We're just doing the same. And their system is riddled with money and corruption. And look at Donald J. Trump. How is he really that different? He's out for his own self-interest. He's out for his own money. He uses the office to make money. His family does. For that matter, Biden's family used his office to make a shitload of money they had no business earning. I don't think we think Hunter Biden is a brilliant geostrategic analyst, but nonetheless, he got a shitload of money. How do we best counter that point, which is that, well, we actually do have a functioning democratic system. We have a free press and so on and so forth. But their championing of wealth as a sign of success and power is hard to really dissect from a Western point of view, it seems to me.
So, I mean, you have literally just pinpointed the thing that frightens me the most about Donald Trump, and that frightens me the most about a potential Donald Trump second term. I mean, I know there are domestic implications and so on, but what worries me the most is that Trump is essentially a figure out of that world. And he is a symbol of the ways in which the values of the autocratic world really have seeped into our political system. So I would say to people who say, well, you know, what's the difference? We have billionaires, they have billionaires. I mean, to some extent, that's not wrong. I mean, and part of the argument of the book is that if we're going to fight it, we need internal changes as well as, this isn't just not a book about foreign policy. And Trump is really somebody, I mean, if you look at his career, the long involvement in property and real estate has been one of the realms, especially in big cities, you know, where it's really a business and not about people's houses and condominiums. It's been hugely influenced by money from the autocratic world. So the fact that people were able to buy anonymously condos in Trump properties, including when he was president. So people were still buying properties in his buildings while he was president, and we have no idea who they were. And if those were bribes, we wouldn't know. I mean, I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying it's unknowable. And
for that matter,
that kind of
untransparent whole life, this was the case. I mean,
and that is
long
exactly
before, huge amounts of Russian money going into his real estate company.
Yes, and that was, I mean, honestly, my red flags about him in 2016 were about that. I mean, I saw him as somebody who emerged out of this murky, sort of unfair world that we had allowed to come into existence, and somebody who'd taken advantage of it, and somebody, if you look at the history of his business dealings with, you know, whether you want to trace his, you know, contacts to the Russian mafia, or even weirdly, there was an amazing New Yorker investigation once about his links in a hotel or a building he built in Azerbaijan to the Iranian regime. I mean, he has had links to that world for his whole life. And his very transactionality, you know, the fact that he says, you know, that he you know, okay, somebody asked, I'll just say, somebody asked me the other day to describe his China policy. And I realized Trump's China policy is going to be whatever he thinks is good for him at that particular moment. So the China hawks might be disappointed if he decides that it's going to be personally good for him for an America to be friendly to China, or maybe personally good for companies who are close to him, or billionaires who've donated to his campaign, or maybe his son-in-law's company. That will be the policy. If he decides for personal reasons that he wants to be a China hawk, then he'll be a China hawk. So his decisions will be made based on his personal, political, and financial views of himself. He doesn't have an interest in the American people. He doesn't have an interest in the democratic world. He doesn't see himself as a leader of the democratic world or connected to any value system of any kind. And that's and by the way, to foreigners, I mean, to certainly Europeans and the Asian democracies, this is crystal clear. I mean, this is exactly what they see about him. And this is exactly what worries them, is that he isn't interested in, pushing back against kleptocracy. He's interested in joining it.